Hello and welcome. I am Ramrai Naik, once again welcoming you for the Beyond the Syllabus podcast. And today I have with me Achal Candolkar, who is a third year BLLB student. And the topic of discussion for today is what is the best smartphone for student? Now, how do we really come to discuss about this topic? Few weeks back, I had gone in this third year class, and after the class is over, Achal, who is the panelist for today's podcast, came to me asking for which is the best smartphone for her to buy. And I don't know why she asked, maybe she could tell us about that later. So once she asked and we started discussing about smartphone, I found that Achal is an enthusiast, smartphone enthusiast, just like how I was or how I am at different points of time. I found that she actually astonished me with her knowledge, and I found that could be a good topic for a podcast. Okay, so Achal, how did your passion came to about smartphone?
So I can categorize it in two ways. First, I would say from childhood, and second, mainly watching YouTube videos and reading articles from the age of 12 or 13, that is 8th standard. So childhood, I think everyone was fascinated by phones because games. Different phones used to have different pre-installed games. So I used to go to my uncle's phone to see his phone, and then go to my father's phone to his phone to see which pre-installed game they had. So I would just love when someone should get a new phone to see which new games they have. So later on, that passion just from phones went to the camera, or from keypad to the touch screen. So there we had the fascination, because unlike other technologies, you see phones the most, not just because they're available so widely, it's also because that's where the evolution happens the fastest. Because if you see a phone or a TV or a fridge from 4 years ago, also it looks the same. But if you just compare a phone from like 4 years ago, you can see the difference. You can literally, you don't have to be knowledgeable about the phones to see the difference. So that's something that excites me, and that's the whole reason I'm into it. And the main reason I'm still so passionate about it is because of YouTube. YouTubers such as MKBHD, the way they presented phones really showed that they cared about phones, and to see that there's a community out there who cares about technology and phones just as me keeps the passion alive.
Okay, so I will also speak about my passion, how did it begin. So half of my life, for first 15 years, you would say that smartphones were very basic, right? But every time someone had a phone, it always piqued my curiosity. Just to approach them, ask them to show their phones. And the earliest memories are like playing snake games on the Nokia 1110
Yes.
and various other phones. And then sending messages, putting those caller tunes. I think that was the maximum thing you could do, or maybe ringtones, changing ringtones. That was the maximum thing. After that, I think in 2010 or something, where smartphones actually started coming, and I also had access to smartphones in 10th standard, 10th or 11th standard, I don't remember clearly. But my first phone was that Nokia 2300 phone. I checked the number yesterday. What was that phone? It's that butterfly keypad kind of thing it had. Then I moved to Galaxy Ace, which is like you can consider as a smartphone. And I think that actually opened a gateway, you can say, to learn a lot of things online, because in this generation or the generation after me, I think maximum time we spend is on smartphone. Maybe the previous generation spent their most of their time on television, right? So that had changed with us, and it kept on. Like many people, many boys are mostly fascinated about cars, but the cars was never my thing. So it was just the smartphones. That even though I bought a smartphone, I was the next day, if some other smartphone would launch, I would be interested in knowing what the new feature of this new smartphone is. Some of the time my family members have even asked me, like yesterday I bought a phone, and tomorrow some new other phone has released, and I'm watching video on the TV. Like, why are you really watching it? So, but that is the kind of passion, that is where smartphone has begun for me, right? Smartphone is also one device for everything. Like a lot of people, just yesterday I was watching an interview of Prashant Kishore. He said that Prashant Kishore is a political consultant. So he said that he doesn't use his laptop, iPad, nothing, just the smartphone, and that does most of his work. So I think that has become a very important gadget for a lot of people, and especially for students, where all the things like sometimes students come to me and say that they don't have a laptop and they cannot do presentation, but I think with the smartphone you can pretty much do everything, right? Would you agree with this?
Totally. And
Okay.
also for the students, we have the research lab. That's where I do my presentations when I don't have my laptop.
Okay, you want to discuss some of the smartphones you had? So
Yes, sir. So the first phone I had was an Oppo phone. It was an Oppo 13 phone which I was gifted. So I did not have any say. Again, the next phone I got because the phone stopped working. So again, did not have any say. But I got to use my mother's or my father's second-hand phones, and I like them because I somehow always made them my own. And the fascinating thing about smartphones is you might think that okay, it's not the highest spec phone, but once you get hooked to it, it does everything you want to do. So it just, once you just into it, you start having that feeling ki you don't need any other device, because if I'm on my phone, I don't think about my laptop unless I have to do something. So the way a smartphone can take every single thing that you want, may it be a phone, may it be alarm clock, that's like the basic use, but even a camera. Oppo phones are known for their cameras. No, if it's not the best phones in camera phones in the whole smartphone universe, but they delivered something. So there was this excitement that we had when I got my first phone. I started clicking pictures. I got into that. So smartphones also ignites a lot of passions, because I know my friends who are into cinematography, they started off with a good phone, and that actually helped them get into it. Even people who are on Instagram doing some things, like my friend, our classmate, is passionate about acting, and she relies on her phone to record videos, she sees movies, and even everything else. So after that Oppo, I moved on to some buffer phones in between, and next one was also Oppo, which was gifted to me, but it was Oppo F17 Pro. I could not buy any good phones because my parents gifted it to me and I could not say no to it. But now that I finally have say that I'm in college, I'm thinking of buying a phone that I'm actually passionate about. That's it, sir.
okay, so while you were talking, I just thought of it that smartphone has become a replacement for a lot of things.
A lot of
like
things.
like you said, alarm clock, television. Like we don't watch only like television.
Yes.
We just watch on YouTube, right? Which are the other things it has replaced?
Alarm clock, as I said,
Yeah.
calendar. Calendar is the most.
Calculator.
Calculator. Physical calendars have limitations, but Google Calendar, a lot of people, when I go for my internship, I love seeing them entering every single thing they want to do in a Google Calendar.
Yeah, even taking notes.
Taking notes.
Then DSLR.
Yes.
But some of the smartphones are actually better. Right?
A lot.
And although I just wanted to mention that for this podcast, we are actually recording from Pixel 8 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max, and we'll basically recording, the main footage is being recorded on both these phones, and after the video, I mean our podcast, and we'll see which is the best footage, and we will actually put that footage in the final YouTube video when we are putting, and we'll put in the description which footage we have actually used, right? So let's see about that as well. So my last phones are Pixel 8 Pro. The previous one was Pixel 6 Pro, and before that was OnePlus 7 Pro, right? So most of my last phones, my consideration have always been getting a phone with the minimum kind of bloatware, which is simple interface. At one point of time, I also owned iPhone, that was iPhone 6s, but after that I found that I'm more of an Android person. So simple interface, easy to use software OS, and that is I think battery also is something
Good.
that matters to me, battery and camera. And for this, I think the Pixel has stood out in the last few years, and that is why I'm on Pixel. Now coming back to the topic, what are some of the students' consideration, like because you are a student yourself, what do students look for when they buy a smartphone?
The first thing they'll think about, or I think about, is performance, because if I'm making a PowerPoint presentation, I don't want it to hang, I don't want to restart again, because that's a problem that will actually hinder my academic growth. So first of all that. Second thing, with performance also, downloading of PPTs for example or something else, if you're switching between files, switching between chapters, it should be smooth. So performance matters. Second thing will be camera. Camera not just to take pictures of the notes, but also Generally, also students have excitement towards the world. So if you're in college, the ability to capture moments with your friends is something I would definitely look forward to. Then people want phones which could do the basic task, the task of contacting on WhatsApp, sending messages, which you get on most phones. And a consideration a lot of people have in my age group is gaming, because nowadays people have resorted to gaming to live out their stress, to go into the fantasy world, escapism, and also because studies have found that people who play games have some development in the brain which a lot of people who don't see, because it triggers your cognitive abilities. So people do like phone.
What are some of the general considerations like affordability? Because a lot of our phone choices is also based on how much we can afford.
Yes.
And it is different for every student. Other things is like durability, access to service center, because I
Yes.
remember these were my consideration at that point of time. Samsung is one service center which is available everywhere. So that time Samsung was a big thing, even now.
Yes.
Right? But I think now most of the smartphone has service centers locally.
Samsung does 56% of their sales offline, which is the most compared to the second largest offline retailer, that is right now Xiaomi, which is barely something in the lower 30s. So Samsung still now has ground on the offline retail sector.
Okay. So from affordability now, if I see myself, although may not relate with a lot of students, privacy is one of the biggest thing that matters
Yes.
to me. But if you talk to anyone who is a geek or who is a tech enthusiast, they will say that your privacy is compromised in some way or the
Totally.
other, right? So moving, like you said mentioned about games, do you think a student really require gaming? Because I myself never played games.
So it depends. Now everything done in excess is harmful, but if I know a lot of parents think gaming is useless, but Elon Musk, for example, he is a passionate gamer. A lot of successful people are passionate about gaming. It's like any other leisure activity. It could bring you a lot of relief, and if you do it in excess, could bring you harm. So you can't label something good or bad just because of the stigma associated with it, because a lot of young people use it. So people associate young people to usually not very good activities.
And also, I think the learning will be gamified in the future.
Yes, totally.
Whatever we are learning, there is always better way to learn it if it is put on a game. Right? Even in classroom, there is something called as experiential learning. All those aspects also come into play. When you do something and try to learn it, you learn it more better.
Yes.
Right? So I am looking forward towards a future where games are completely integrated in the education. Right? Now, next point is, like I said, a lot of my initial phones have been pre-owned smartphones. And I don't think there is any problem with it. Actually, it's better. If you don't have a lot of money to buy, pre-owned smartphones are better. What is your take on it?
I have never used a pre-owned smartphone, but people who have good reviews. But then also, it depends on where you get them from. So as long as you know the seller and have that trust in them, it's totally a good offer, because it gives access to phones you wouldn't normally would have had. So for students especially, where budget is a constraint and you are passionate about some phones, second-hand phone are the best.
Okay. There are also refurbished phones which are not pre-owned as such. It is maybe a phone which has had some defect and it was sent back to the company. Company tried to resolve that defect and then package it again and sell it. What is your take on that?
So now these are a little more riskier, but if it's a risk, but 80% of the time they're reliable. If you just look at all the online studies, 80% of the time they're reliable, but 80% is not good when you're a student, because if out of 100 you are part of the 20, it's a big risk to take.
Yeah, because generally when I see, you just go on Amazon, you see a refurbished phone reviews. They're always bad. They're always below 3 star or something, 3.5 star. So that is not a good area, that people should spend on refurbished phones.
Yes.
Now the next is, a lot of the times we get confused with the specs. or there are these 5 cameras, 6 cameras, specs are so much bumped up. Do you think there is a lot of this illusion that happens?
Totally, sir, because the average user does not know what the spec mean.
Yeah.
So they see higher number, they'll think better cameras.
Yeah.
Now a 20,000 rupee phone will have 200 megapixel camera versus iPhone even till last year having 12 megapixel camera. The video quality, even the photo quality is far superior on a 12 megapixel iPhone or even a Pixel for that matter. So specs don't mean anything unless you see their practical utility. So for example, cameras, you should always go search for the samples on Google. Just search for iPhone 15 camera sample instead of just looking at the number of specs, even with lower end phones or higher end phones. Not just with specs, with
So sample, where exactly we have to search for it?
just any Google phone name and the word sample, and you will be taken to links. There are especially Google Drives associated with compilation of all the photos.
Original files.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you can see what you have. And another tip I saw from a YouTuber was go for comparison test and put the YouTube video on mute. So then you make your original opinion on the photos that you see instead of relying on the YouTuber who says that one particular picture is better.
Right. That is a good way of learning from. Even I feel that the current smartphone that I have, the Pixel 8 Pro, it has apparently 12 GB RAM.
Yes.
But it sucks in performance. Doesn't even feel like you have the latest smartphone, and it has been awarded best smartphone for many awards. Even MKBHD was given
Yes.
Pixel 8 as the best smartphone. Mobile World Conference, I think, also has given Pixel 8 as the best smartphone. But you cannot say that you have got 12 GB plus you have the Tensor chip, and then it doesn't matter at all, right? Apple has far lesser
Yes.
RAM but does far well, right?
The optimization on Apple is amazing, but also I recently saw a video of people comparing iQOO with Nothing Phone 2a. Nothing Phone 2a has the Pro version of the same MediaTek processor, but even after having a Pro version, the non-Pro version that of iQOO outperforms the Pro one. So even though the number is bigger, the lower end smartphone is optimized in a way that it gives a better result. Not even that. For example, you said 12 GB. Now, if I was considering buying Nothing Phone 2a, if I got the 12 GB RAM, there was no point of me using it because the processor wouldn't have allowed me to use the 12 GB properly. So just because you have the room to do something, if one of the machinery is not letting you go that high, one of its component being the highest spec won't actually matter, because you have to look at the overall performance, not just one thing having the highest spec number.
Okay. So now let's move to the top picks. But first, let's start with, if someone had wanted to buy a phone, budget was not a constraint, they don't know a lot about phones, and they just want to go and get the best smartphone for students, which will do most of the things for them. So which smartphone do they pick for?
Absolutely Apple. Whatever is the latest Apple version in the year you're buying, get it, because I can say it confidently, it is not the best phone, but for most people it will be the best phone for you, because it does your work by itself, in the sense that with a lot of Android phones you have to manually go tweak something, so it gives you access, which is good. As a person passionate about phones, I love that. But if a person does not know much about phones, you can just get the default phone, because it will do everything for you. It will have a very good camera, very good processor, it will do everything. They take their phone to be an art, and they do it in a way that any person who uses the phone sees that they have the company has put in effort, so you don't have to do much by yourself. That's why, if budget, that's an important point, if budget is not a constraint, iPhone 15 will do everything for you and you will not have a single complaint.
Once Apple did that Think Different campaign,
Yes.
and they put a lot of people like Pablo Picasso, Mahatma Gandhi,
Yes.
and some astronaut, some scientist, Newton and all, and then Steve Jobs, after the announcement, he said, I think Newton was not there. After the announcement, I think Steve Jobs said that if probably these people were alive, they would use Apple
Yes.
Apple devices. So they And I know that Apple devices are also very creator friendly. You want to record something, even voice record is so good. Smart video is the best, right? You cannot really beat in terms of video for iPhone. Any iPhone that way is better. I know one of my friend who bought iPhone 14 and he's doing his own video blogging, which is quite good on the iPhone. It doesn't require a lot of efforts, and the editor app also on the phones do the job pretty well. So default phone,
Yes.
even for me, the latest iPhone, whatever it is, if not your budget is not that much, go for the previous version.
Yes.
It will still stand the test of time for you, right?
True. The resale value is the best on an iPhone. Plus, if you could afford to invest in the ecosystem, it's the best ecosystem.
But don't you think it's kind of expensive ecosystem?
It is an expensive
because they
ecosystem.
lock you in like anything. Because I remember when I had iPhone, I would use this Apple Notes, and then when I moved to Android, I had no way to access Apple Notes. I mean, I had Mac laptop, so that way I could access. But on the phones, I couldn't access it. If I had no laptop, probably I would have lost a lot of notes that I had taken on the phone. So that way, I think it tries to lock you in.
True.
A lot of their cloud, if you want to store anything on the cloud, the plans are very expensive. So that way, although the ecosystem is good, if you can afford all the devices of Apple, then it is seamless transferring files or doing anything. You do one thing on your phone, suddenly move to your PC, and there is kind of continuity. You can just stop here and work
Yes.
over there. So that kind of things are there happening. But I think someone who cannot afford that ecosystem, I think should not jump into that system.
Totally. It is in a sense that Apple knows its audience, and Apple knows that if you're willing to invest so much in one device, they expect you to be willing to do the same. So if you're once caught in that web, it is basically impossible to get out, because Apple has spoiled you in a sense. You can't just go out. It's not just the technology it offers, but the seamlessness of transferring. So even as you said, sir, even if you want to switch your phone and you don't want a MacBook, since it has spoiled you in a sense that you can't now go back to having that one extra step of transferring data. So I agree with that, but that's the caveat. The most important part with Apple is you should have budget as not a consideration if you want to invest there, which a lot of student it is not. So maybe once you start,
No, for a lot of students it is.
it is actually yes not. So if it is not a constraint, then totally Apple.
Okay. So now let's go to the tier list. Can you explain the tier list, what it is, why did we consider it for this podcast?
So on the internet, it is like the latest trend. It is the best way of visually seeing what you should consider before buying. So now if I just look at the tier list, it starts from S. It will be the most optimized best smartphone currently available. So we have tried to stick to only 2 phones in each tier. So as the tier goes down, the affordability increases. So if you just go at the topmost tier, you'll have 2 to 3 options, and you can then go and search for it independently. But now you have a basic guideline of what you should consider buying in each tier list. So there are 5 categories that we have considered. The first one starts from 15,000 to 20,000. Next one 20 to 30, then 30 to 50, and 50 to 80, and the finally 80 plus tier. So with each smartphone, each tier, you get extra features. And we started with 15K because when I did my research, I found out you get best for your money in at least 50 about years. Because if you spend money, even if you spend like 11,000, a lot of times the brand have to compromise on what they're giving. Either they'll give you a lot of bloatware in their software, or the specs that they promise don't deliver because the hardware actually can't function at a range like that. And also when you're buying, as Sir said, durability is a concern. So if you're buying a phone as a student, you're not going to be buying a phone every 1 year or every 6 months. So if you want a durable phone, it is best advised to start off with 15,000 phones, because I actually know people who got a 15,000 phone and have been using it for 4-5 years. But it gets difficult if you go lower than 15,000. So those are the 5 tiers.
Yes, and those tiers are called S, A, B, C, D.
D.
S is the most optimized,
Yes.
the best one, and the
Yes.
D is the lowest one. Although there are 7 tiers, but for our consideration, we have only taken the five categories. Okay, so let's jump to the lowest one first.
Yes,
That is
sir.
the D tier. That is 15,000 to 20,000.
Yes,
Which
sir.
smartphones you got over here?
So the first and the topmost phone that I will list here will be iQOO Z9.
IQ is an Indian brand.
It is a sub-brand of Vivo.
Okay.
So it launched targeting the gamers. So to target gamers, what they did was they optimized the performance. So if you take, there are multiple IQ phones, but if you take any IQ phones in the segment, most often than not, it will outperform any other phone in that segment when it comes to performance, because they're optimized in a way. So very gamer centric, but it delivers good cameras. It is released recently and promises 2 years of software update. It has stereo speakers, so if you're watching multimedia, if you're consuming anything like that, it will be good. And it has 8 GB of RAM, and it can go up to even 256 GB of RAM. So if as a student, there's nothing that this phone can't offer for you. So for a baseline, iQOO Z9 is the best phone. But I know a lot of people are invested in Samsung, because when I went to my mother to ask about a phone, the first thing she said was like, yeah, go to the Samsung store and get whatever phone you want. Because in their head, phone is Samsung. So if you want to convince your parents to get a Samsung phone, then Samsung 34, M34 will be a good choice. But the only problem is, since okay, this might be controversial, but I feel like Samsung has gotten lazy with the lower tiers of smartphones, because they know that there's a recognition of brand. So if for like iQOO Z9, you get a punch-in hole camera, almost bezel-less look. You get 8 GB of RAM, whereas the M34 has very thick bezels, has a chin in the bottom, has teardrop notch instead of having a hole punch notch, and starts, as I said, with 6 GB RAM. So it knows the audience, but the battery is better. The battery is 6,000 milliamp hour. So it knows this audience will just flock to them no matter what. So they have gotten a little lazier. So hopefully in the future, if they learn, it will also be a good choice. But for now, the iQOO Z9 is the best phone, and also honorable mention to the Lava Blaze Curve phone, because it is an Indian company, and Motorola G54, because Motorola has done something with the lower tier phones. From even 10,000, though I would not recommend, but if you have to, from 10,000 to 30,000, Motorola has in the recent years innovated a lot. And why it is noteworthy is because compared to other phones in that segment, it does not offer much bloatware. It is a very stock Android-like experience, and it gives you best value for money. And it also invests on the way the phone looks, because the Samsung will just have a clear
And
back.
Motorola also has the default Google interface, right?
Exactly, sir.
Right, so it doesn't add anything over top of
Nothing,
it. It is just
barely
like a
anything.
Pixel one, not as smooth or not as optimized, but it has the cleanest kind of
True, sir.
OS.
Even with iQOO, you will have some bloatware, even dark patterns, in a sense that you will have the shady games downloaded. But it's not that bad compared to the other phones.
Because when you buy it, you can delete all those games.
You can,
right?
but you have to manually do that, no, sir.
Yeah.
So that for most people, they
And
won't.
one more thing is, when a lot of my relatives ask me for phone advice, and when I tell them, and then they go and buy phones, it is usually the Samsung.
Yes.
Then when I ask them, it is that retailer who is sitting there,
Yes.
who has influenced their decision and said that Samsung has got the good service network and all, go for it, and name is also recognizable. Their largest manufacturing is also happens in India. I think that is the one of the largest manufacturing company that they have in Noida. Okay, so Samsung, that phone, which is the phone?
M34, sir.
Okay, and which is the first recommendation in this category?
iQOO Z9.
iQOO Z9.
One
Okay,
more
so
thing
that is, yeah.
One more thing with Samsung is, the good thing is that it is promising security updates and software updates for a longer period of time. So if you're a casual user, won't go much into the performance aspect, want a good battery and want reliability for a long period of time, you could go with Samsung, because it has software updates, good battery, and most of all, won't have the interface is one UI, so you will have a comfortable experience using it. That's it.
Next category is to 20,000 to
To
30,000.
30,000.
Okay, so now this is a 10,000 kind of, I mean, in the gap of 10,000 from 20,000 to 30,000, which is the best smartphone?
Yes, sir. I think this is more important because I would recommend most people who don't have that budget to shop from this category, because you get most of things that you will rely. So if you compare a flagship phone to a phone in this segment, you have 80% of flagship features in this phone. So now you're not compromising on something, because the 50 to 20k budget you are using, think of utility, that's like the bare minimum. But here you have little room for a little more features that you would expect from a flagship phone, and also things like IP ratings have increased, so you have better durability in that sense, and also a lot more competition. So the first one I will say is like Poco X6 Pro. For gaming performance, only thing that it lacks is the camera, because it is targeting gamers or people who perform a lot, so they don't tend to use the camera. It is a good looking phone, you have the reliability. Poco used to have motherboard issues, but recently there's no news of that, so you could rely on that if you just want a performance centric phone, something you could rely on. But if you want to branch out, I would just say look into Nothing Phone 2a. Though it is recently released, people have complained about it being jittery or lagging, or the camera module not being optimized in a way that when you point, you can't point shoot that easily. You have to like tweak the camera glitches. But I would just tell to wait till one update. If after the update also this continues, then maybe don't buy. But if they fix it, then it is one of the best one in the segment, because it looks gorgeous. If you look at it, it is very distinctive, and it, compared to other phones in the segment, the notches are very even, has a very premium feel. Even though it's plastic, you won't feel like it's plastic. So you will get the closest to a flagship in that range. And of course, you have the Nord 3 and the
That
Redmi.
is the OnePlus.
Yes, OnePlus Nord 3 and the Redmi phone, but they are basically the same. Overall, the specs in this segment remain the same. So what really you should consider is your personal preference. So if you're into gaming, of course S6. If you're into looks or the way it feels and the UI of Nothing being so beautiful, go for Nothing 2a. If you're a OnePlus fan, though I would not recommend specifically, but if you really like OnePlus, you could consider the Nord 3. And Realme, the thing with Realme was, when it was launched, it was, I think it's called Realme 12, let me check. Oh, something to do with, yeah, Realme 12 Pro. So it was initially launched with Shah Rukh Khan being the brand ambassador at about 30k range, but it has recently had a discount. So performance wise, it's going to be almost the same average 20 to 30k phone, but it will do really good with portraits, really good. So if portrait is something that you care about, then you could consider that. It's a soft phone. If you're doing basic touch, you don't have any problem, but don't consider heavy editing or gaming with that phone. So that's about it. Honorable mention, I would say, to the Motorola again. A lot of people in this segment prefer Motorola for the same reasons I mentioned.
So when you are
before.
listing these smartphones, you are basically telling them from the first phone that is the
Yes,
most recommended.
most recommended.
Then the next phone. So
Yes.
it's not the same level.
It's not the same
okay.
level.
So in that range you are moving.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In this range, there's also the Vivo 2 Pro. Again, I will say honorable mention. If people are really into the looks of a phone, it is gorgeous, but you won't get something
the
special.
only thing that most people have told me is that it makes you look fair.
Yes, it does.
Vivo.
It clears blemishes and it makes your skin fairer. So if people are into that, they could get it.
Yeah.
It's a very
and the phones like Google and all, they are like the one who want your
Yes,
natural skin tone to be.
You will
coming.
actually see your pores with Oppo. They will just smoothen your skin
Yeah.
out. You can barely distinguish. But people really like it. When I was going through the reviews of camera phones, and they were like, awesome camera, and all I'm seeing is blurred out faces. So people are actually, maybe because we are into seeing the details, we think they are not good. But for majority of people, they like it. They say like, what's
Because they want to put those photos on the social
Exactly.
media, and on social media, I think you want to put out your best
best
version.
photos, exactly. So Oppo gives, not Oppo also, but Vivo T3, T2 gives you hyped your vision, like your imaginary best version of yourself. So that's that.
Okay. The next category is 30 to 50,000. I think here is where you have Google entering.
Yes.
Nothing's phone also, the major phone of Nothing 2 also is
Yes.
there in this area. So, which are your top picks in this?
Topics, I would go with OnePlus 12R. It is the best in this segment, and if you want, you can even consider the IQ phone. The IQ.
OnePlus 12 is what is the price?
It will be around 40,000.
Okay.
Uh,
12,
12
12
R,
or 12
12
Pro?
R, 12R, not the flagship version, because it does everything that you want. It has a very good build. It has such specific features that if you're into phones, you will absolutely enjoy. The battery life is amazing. Everything about it is perfect, flawless, except for the cameras, which are not bad per se, but won't give you flagship level quality. So the videos will have over sharpening if you just see the reviews. Even if you don't see the reviews.
But is the OnePlus software good now? Because you must have
Yes.
heard about Oxygen
Soon.
OS.
Yes.
There was big cult following for Oxygen OS. I also had bought OnePlus at that point of time, which was the cleanest UI, right? At that point of time. Now they try to change it. They try to superimpose Vivo or the Oppo
Color OS.
kind of color OS on the
Oxygen
OnePlus.
OS, yes.
So is it good now?
I've seen people complain, but the same people also say that there's a distinction still between the color OS and the Oxygen OS. Oxygen OS still holds its own. It won't necessarily be a problem, but it's not a deal breaker. That's all I would say. It's such a good phone. It should not be a deal breaker. It should not stop you from getting that phone because everything else is so perfect. The battery life, everything. You'll be satisfied in all rounds. It has the curved display if people are into that. It's subjective choice, and the only competitor it has in that range is the iQOO Neo 9 Pro. Same as I said, iQOO has really done something with its performance and optimization in the processor round, and it is a choice between, if it's a choice between IQ or a OnePlus, it just comes to your subjective preference or the way it looks, or if you have a brand preference or a OS preference. It has IQ as the Fun Touch OS, which to an extent has a little bit of bloatware, but overall is functionable and worth the price. That's all. The two.
So you have not mentioned anything to do with Google Pixel
7A
7A or 6A.
So that,
Because that is, if you remember the blind camera test
Yes.
that has been done by many
MK,
people,
yes.
and 6A is the winner for some reason, and the 7A also is the winner this
True.
year.
Even if you compare the Pixel 4, which was launched in, if I'm not mistaken, 2016-17, I was in school still, even that holds up better than most of these phones. In just camera test, it's photography, not video. But the thing is that I would just say Pixel is for very specific people. People who are in AC, work indoors, don't use phone on the bus. If you are sitting next to the window and if you call someone in the window, Pixel will overheat a lot. And then connectivity, I heard, is an issue with people with Pixel. So that, as I said, if you want reliability, for 90% of people, since I'm just recommending something, I won't give that. For specific people, it might be the best phone, but generally speaking, I won't recommend it to someone.
Actually, I have recommended Pixel 6A to a lot of people, and I don't think so they have regrets. Maybe they are the people who are mostly indoors, like
Yes.
you said. Phone does heat a lot,
Yes.
but camera you can 100% rely.
Yes, totally.
In a nighttime condition or a daytime condition, daytime is the best condition obviously. So they have been happy because I recommended based on smart camera and
Yes.
clean interface.
Clean interface.
And I don't think they have a lot of complaint. And after them also buying, they have recommended some other people to buy Pixel 6A, which was you could get it even at 25,000.
Yes, I was going to say that, sir. My friend got Pixel 7A, but he got it at like 28,000 because he exchanged his previous phone. So if that is an option, for less than 30,000, it is a really good buy.
Yeah.
Even around 30,000. If that's the case, then you could even consider the Samsung S21 FE, the Snapdragon 888 version that was released in 2023. Though it was initially released with Android 13, it will have like 1 or 2 years of software update. So if you're going to use it for a short period of time, and if you want a really good camera, in photography, it won't be as good as the Pixel, but it will get very close, and it will do better in videography compared to the Pixel. So if that's a consideration, but it's very specific. You only get it now because it is less than 30,000 currently. It was initially released at like 40 odd thousand, so absolute no then. But now, if you're getting it at that price, it's a good buy.
And I think most people should just wait for Big Billion Day and those Amazon
Yes.
Great Indian Festival. I think that is the time smartphones are the cheapest in India.
Totally.
And I've also seen not just Amazon and Flipkart. You can probably go to a local retailer and say that I am getting this phone for, let's say, 40,000. Just do a price match. And maximum times they do the price match and give it for the same price.
So one more thing would be Samsung is the only exception, or you could say that sometimes the Samsung stores sell a phone at a lower cost than the internet counterpart, not during sales but generally, because Samsung always have every 2 days, every 2 weeks they have some sale going on. So my sister got a phone last year for Valentine's Day sale, so they have sales for everything, and usually will have like 2,000, 3,000 rupees if not more discount compared to the online counterpart. And one more reason I was researching into why Samsung has such a good offline retail. So you can literally buy a phone without any way of telling them, giving them credit security, as in Samsung trust you. They have this way of locking calls or essential features if you don't pay. So a lot of time there's EMI, but Samsung has this way that you could just promise to pay the money and you can get the phone on credit, and they don't have any extensive way of getting, just you need Aadhaar card, that's all you need, there's nothing else you need. And so a lot of time that's the reason why it is holding the topmost share in India, because the way it just, if you go to a person in web Samsung store and say if you don't have money, they're like okay, buy later. It's almost like Samsung wants to sell you the phone.
Buy now, pay later.
Buy now, pay later. Yeah, true.
And one more thing that I found Samsung is they have smartphone for every category, every 5,000 category. Even I think they have for below 10,000,
Yes.
then 15,000, 10 to 15,000, they will have at least
Yes.
2-3 smartphones. Then every 5,000 they have something, and they create that new smartphone
Yes.
just to fill up everywhere. They have the best flagship phone which costs
Yes.
like 1,40,000.
More than that, the latest one.
Yeah, and they also have something which costs you like 8,000. So that they have tried to do it well. Yeah. So
But
should we?
Yes, sir. But I would also like to mention the Nothing Phone 2, which I did not. It is the best Nothing phone. If you're into the Nothing interface, then you would appreciate it. It has everything. It's an all-rounder phone. The only thing you might have to compromise on will be the camera. Except for that, it's a very good all-rounder phone.
Okay. The A category. Now we have done D, C, B. We have done,
Yes.
and now the A category, which is 50,000
To
to
80,000.
80,000, right? So what you got over here?
This is an interesting category because you're mostly getting once upon a time the phone who are flagship level. The new entries will be IQ 12 and the OnePlus 12, or even have the Xiaomi phones, which I personally don't have much experience
We have
on.
to give a disclaimer that IQ has not paid us.
Yes, I'm only saying this because they're new. A lot of time when OnePlus was released, when it was fresh, the way they were undercutting the competition, they were called flagship killers. So the same way, whenever new phones launch, they have this enthusiasm. They know the problem with the market and they just go exactly at the gap. So IQ is in that position right now where OnePlus or some other phones were few years ago. That's why I'm so pro IQ, because it is.
Surprisingly, I have never followed IQ's.
IQ.
Yeah. Although Virat Kohli is their
Virat
brand
Kohli.
ambassador.
I think I know about it because of Tanmay Bhatt. If you watch any of the Tanmay Bhatt videos, he'll be advertising IQ all the time.
Okay.
So it is targeting the younger demographic, the gaming demographic, and the demographic who knows what they should be getting for a value. So a lot of people, even this Kalpe said, the current CEO of Nothing. He said that to an interview with Kunal Shah, the CEO of Cred. He said that in Indonesia, people are very price sensitive, so are people in India. But the difference being that in Indonesia, if you sell like a 15,000 phone, even if you have a very high margin, people will buy it because it's cheap 15,000 phone. But in India, they will not just buy a phone because it's 15,000. They'll see what are the other 15,000 phone. What am I getting for each penny of my 15,000? So people are not just price sensitive; they're also very, very value sensitive. So IQ is filling that
Feature
niche.
sensitive also.
Yes, feature sensitive. They
Yes.
know people
That
are
is
tech
that is
savvy.
the thing about India. Irrespective of even if you are shelling out 1 lakh or
Yes.
something, you are actually comparing what I am getting for the
Yes.
maximum buck for that
Yes.
amount. Yeah. So what you said, IQ.
IQ 12, but I would usually not recommend because if you're in that territory, you
Yeah.
have flagships of like the highest level competing brands. So you could prefer that. But if you're really an enthusiast, you could go for it. So I just mentioned IQ 12 and nothing, the OnePlus 12. But I would still recommend if you're in that run after 50,000, go for any other flagship which we could discuss now.
So we have got iPhone 15.
Yes.
In that iPhone 15 will come for about 70,000.
Yes.
70?
With offer, it could even go a little lower right
Yeah,
now.
65 I think.
I just saw today morning it was 66 on Flipkart with some offers. If you have some particular credit card, some.
Okay, so let's consider 65 for iPhone.
Yes.
And iPhone 15 Plus is around 76 or 78.
78.
78,
around that.
right? Because after the offers you will
Yes.
get, because offers most people will use the offer. Because then there is also Pixel 8,
Yes.
which is not the Pixel 8 Pro, because Pixel 8 Pro would come for 90,000. So Pixel 8 is there. Samsung S24
Yes.
will come in that 75.
Yes.
75.
Yes.
So you got this, not the top tier flagship, but you have got the flagship smartphone.
Yes.
Not the pro versions.
And also you have previous years plus versions, not the pros, but you will have the iPhone 13 onwards.
Yeah, you will have iPhone 13. Like
14.
if you are more towards inclined towards 50,000 kind of area,
Yes.
then iPhone 13, 14, those are the phones that you will
Yes.
get. Then Pixel 7.
Yes.
Pixel 7 Pro also you will get for 55,000 or 60,000.
I would like to mention, no matter what, just don't get the Samsung S23 FE. Just a disclaimer, we could proceed.
Yeah, actually they did a very good FE version, the first
21,
FE, 21, yeah. That was like the best thing,
Yes.
best thing that they did.
Best seller smartphone
Yeah.
in India, even internationally. My sister has that F21 FE. It has a metallic frame but a plastic back, so a compromise, but it's actually a good thing because it's crash resistant.
It doesn't matter actually. I would myself, even if I'm buying a flagship phone, why I want a glass on
Glass
the back?
back.
It doesn't matter because I'll put a case anyway.
Anyways.
Right? It doesn't matter. And so FE, the kind of thinking that went into creating that phone was like, I think they went to people, what you wanted in every particular feature, like camera, what kind of camera you wanted, or you wanted top tier camera, then durability, put plastic, I
Yes.
don't mind, right? The display should be the best one,
Yes.
AMOLED display. So I think they went with each thing that a price sensitive or a feature sensitive smartphone buyer is, and they came out with that smartphone. But I think the next version they compromised because they did not put the Snapdragon processor on the next
Exynos.
version, and
Yes.
they put their own Exynos Samsung processor,
It
which
is-
actually spoiled it for them.
It is not just that. You actually have the same camera as the flagship 23, but the problem is, why is it priced 50,000 when the flagship is just like 10,000 higher and the battery is lower? And the main important part is, Samsung, being Samsung, since they want every phone in 5,000 rupees range, have a A54 at around 40,000, 45,000, even with the highest version being around 50,000. So why would a person purchase that phone over the latest A54? Why would A55 now? Why would a person want to buy a previous gen version? And also, if you compare, I consider 23. If you just look at the A55 and the fan edition, that is 23 FE, the bezels on 23 FE are more than the A54. So if you're paying less and getting a better phone, so Samsung being in a Samsung being Samsung, creating so many phones, actually sabotage themselves with that phone. So it's a very useless phone which is filling a niche which no one cares about. So that's why.
Okay, so we were on that around 80,000
80,000.
iPhone 15, 15 Plus, Pixel 8,
8.
and Samsung S24.
Yes.
If I had to, because you have already given your choice, if you had to pick between the four, because I think this is where most people will buy. They will. I don't know about IQ, whether people are that much enthusiastic.
But that is the lower end. So
Lower
if
end,
someone
okay.
really
So
wants
someone is around the 80,000 kind of a bracket.
it's 50-60 kind of bracket.
Yeah, so-
IQ. Oh, if someone is
Yeah.
at 80,000, if you have asked me this question every year since the inception of me caring about phones, I would have always said Samsung, 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 Samsung. But this year, for the first time, with iPhone and the Type-C cable, I'm going to say iPhone 15. Absolute winner. Because all the problems that you had with iPhones, with the storage problem, if you have Type-C cable, you can just transfer anytime. Accessibility has increased, plus it's a big upgrade. Compared to the previous one, they used to have a notch. Here, now the dynamic island has become the standard. Earlier, you had to go to the Pro Max version to get the dynamic island. Now, that's a different question if say Apple should have dynamic island or just have a hole punch, like small camera. The Face ID thing is a whole different debate. But overall, that phone, best in a segment, best overall also for what you get for the value. Get good camera, good performance, good video. Especially, no other phone will compete even with iPhone 15 when it comes to camera, video recording, and just the tweaks that it has compared to the previous generation is worth the purchase.
I would say the same phone. You said iPhone 15 Plus?
Yes, not the Plus though, because I like small phones. I'll say 15.
Okay. So that is as per the one's preference.
Yes.
But I would say iPhone 15 Plus. Why? Because it gets the battery right.
Yes.
I think it has the best battery. Although I have not used it, but I have seen the reviews that which phone lasts the maximum. It has always been that phone.
Plus version.
Either the iPhone 15 Plus or the iPhone 15 Pro. Between these two phones, I think they last the maximum time. And battery is it's a big consideration for a lot of people, right?
True.
And when you go for iPhone, I think it gets your camera right, your multitasking is better, processor is so good. I am regretting buying Pixel 8 Pro because of the processor. And before buying Pixel 8 Pro, I bought it for 89,000 or something. iPhone 15 Plus was also a choice, but I did not consider it that much because I did not want it to go back to iOS. And when I bought it, I found that because of the lag on Pixel 8 Pro, probably I should have considered iPhone 15 Plus, because I think most of my use is also about video. Like right now, you're also using my phone for the video. So probably if that was the consideration, iPhone 15 Plus would have been a better smartphone. Like you said, it is the best iPhone upgrade so far, right? The last 4 or 5 upgrades weren't that big.
From
10 onwards, right? It wasn't that significant. iPhone 15 has got multiple things right. So iPhone 15 Plus is what I would also recommend over the Pixel 8, which is winner in multiple events and multiple award shows. They have given it to Pixel 8, but myself using Pixel 8 Pro, I wouldn't recommend it because the very features why it is winning awards, like the AI features, they are not that deal breaker. They are not something that you would use on a regular basis, and there are a lot of limitation. Like let's say the feature like audio eraser on your noise eraser on your videos. It has a limit of 5 minutes. Then there is something called as the video boost, which uploads your videos on the cloud and then it cleans it so well and gives it back to you. That has a limit of 10 minutes. Plus you need a cloud storage. There's a lot of limitations on the Pixel 8. So I would not really recommend Pixel 8 or even Samsung for that matter. So I would say go safe and buy iPhone for that price category.
Yes. Also, the thing with Apple is, it will, if you even, okay, later on if Apple comes up with AI, Apple does not give up on the previous users. So even if you have an iPhone 15, you can rest assured that if that AI comes at 16 or even 17, you will get it eventually, because they don't have many phones. So every update comes to your phone eventually. So in that sense, you won't be missing out on something if it becomes the industry trend. If AI becomes the industry trend, of course Apple will. Okay, Apple is slower in most aspects, but in this category, I'm very optimistic, and I'm hoping that if it does become the norm, Apple will hop on and will deliver.
So recently, you must be aware that Apple has tied up with Google for Gemini
Yes.
system to be installed on the Apple, and I already saw on my relative's phone that they've already got the Gemini on the iPhone. So all you can access all the features from the Google, and this partnership have come after a long time. Earlier they had a Google search partnership, and they still have, like, Google every year pays them a lot of money to keep the Google search on iPhone. Then there were Google Maps, which iPhone has kept for a long time, because Apple Maps did not really come off that much.
And as they say, the Google Maps on Apple are better than Google Maps on any Android phone.
Absolutely, that's what I was supposed to say. I don't know the logic why it is so that if I use a Google app on my Pixel 8 Pro, it's not as great as the iPhone. So that is something that Google has themselves to find out, because you just have got one or two phones to optimize it. At least your flagship make it the best. Like the YouTube app is not as great as the as on iPhone. Even I see the Instagram app.
Yes.
It is far better app on iPhone than what it is on the on Pixel 8. It lags a lot, right? Yeah, so should we move to the next, the higher top tier, that is the S tier, and here we are considering basically 80,000 and above.
Yes.
So there is no restriction how big it can go to. Yes.
So in this category, I would say, objectively speaking, I'm saying objectively speaking because if a person, because I know this because I know a lot of Apple people passionate about Apple, but even then, when they see the Ultra, the Samsung Ultra, their mind is blown. The lenses that they have, the optical zoom, everything actually somehow when we first came out, like, when am I going to use 10x zoom? But as I said, my friend was at a concert and she was telling me how they were able to record the artist perform from far away. Or there's actually something about that phone, it gives you so much power. Most people of course don't need it, but it gives you so much power that even the S Pen for that matter, it's hard to say no. It's almost becomes difficult for me to recommend that any other phone over it, except someone who's already into the Apple ecosystem and they're having a difficulty. But if you're coming afresh, I would say for not a very high margin, because Apple, as I said, is the best iPhone they have made in a very long time, but a very small margin, I would just say the Samsung S24 Ultra takes the cake. That's the phone.
And one more consideration is Samsung prices drop faster than the Apple one. So probably if you wait for like few months, when S24 Ultra drops like 25,000 or 20,000, then it becomes like the best phone. One more thing that you told me this morning, that Samsung will charge for AI separately.
Yes.
And let me tell you that Samsung has got AI far better than Google. Despite using Google's own AI. I think because of the processor, it is faster, it is far more reliable, right? But maybe in some cases it doesn't do as well as the Google one, but it is definitely faster. So you said it will be charging for the AI.
Yes. So the main reason temporarily it might be fast is because if you just look at the Samsung 24 lineup launch, it talks absolutely nothing about the hardware. It just talks about the AI feature most of the time. It is almost as if they built the 24 for AI. So it is optimized in the best sense to support AI. So that might be the reason it's doing better. And when I read the article about Samsung charging, they said it will be free till 24 and maybe they'll charge. So maybe hopefully they'll push it, but it makes absolute no sense, because if a user is buying something, they expect it to be permanent. The reasoning might be if a user is willing to spend so much for a phone, they will be willing to spend a lot. Because if you just compare, I just found out about it recently, a clear phone case from the Samsung website. If you're buying for the S series, the same phone case, the clear phone case, will cost like, for example, I'm not sure the exact rate, but like 2,000, 3,000. But the same clear phone case for a normal phone will be costing like 500, 600. So they know, they market themselves. They're trying to be Apple now. They're gonna charge. They're gonna get you hooked on, and now they're gonna charge for the premium users.
Yeah, and I think the person buying 1 lakh smartphone
Won't
wouldn't
have
really care
care.
about the pricing for that AI. So yeah, so I don't know about that category, which will be the best smartphone, but I would definitely say not Pixel, although Pixel comes off at 90,000, Pixel 8 Pro, which packs lot of features. If it is a purely matter of price consciousness, then I think go for Pixel, because 90,000 you wouldn't get as good phone.
Why would anyone in 90,000 range be price conscious? If he was price conscious,
No,
he would have gotten.
if you don't have a budget to go beyond 1 lakh for those people,
So even
because the next is after 90,000 it's 1 lakh 40.
yes, direct skip.
1 lakh 40 at for S24, and also for your iPhone 15 Pro and Max, which is like another 20,000 more, 10,000 more.
Then I would just suggest to wait a year. Is there a reason you need a phone right now? If yes,
Yeah,
then
probably those who are buying also has a good phone.
exactly. If you are going for an update, wait for a year when there's a major update for Pixel or any other brand.
Yeah, so I would say, yeah, Samsung does has its point after the S24, because with S23 Ultra, I think they've already ticked marked a lot of boxes, and with S24 the game is they've just upped the game. But let's talk about someone who's also considering iPhone 15 Pro. Why they should consider iPhone 15 Pro, and I think refresh rate is one thing, but I've used iPhone 15 Plus and the 15 Pro. If you minutely look it, then you find refresh rate is a big thing for iPhone, because they've optimized their OS so well that it doesn't matter. On a Google phone, it will definitely, you will notice it. The very second that you use a Google phone, you will realize 60 Hertz refresh rate and the 90 Hertz and the 121. But on iPhone, it doesn't matter. iPhone 15 Plus has 60 Hertz. It is still as good. Another thing that is for consideration for iPhone 15 Pro is the third camera, which will give you the telephoto lens. Let's say you are going for a lot of concerts, events where you need to shoot events from far off, then yes, video is one of the consideration. Battery life, I think you'll get the same battery life that you will get on the normal iPhone 15. Which are the other areas where iPhone 15 Pro is better than the previous one?
Pro, refresh rate being the major one, as you said, telephoto lens. Apart from the button, the extra button, I think will
action button they are
exactly.
getting. Yeah. So that is like nothing. I mean, just one button you can ask for something to do.
I mean, it can become the camera button. People might have practical utility. For example, if you're a photographer, if you want to capture a moment, it will be faster just to click a button.
Okay.
But other than that, the storage, if
the storage is pretty much the same. No, you can also buy the lower 15 Plus. Also, you can buy for 256.
The titanium build, that might be a consideration for some people, but after a certain point, the Pro does not have much over the Plus version.
And I think also ProRes, the software which gives you the higher capability of videos, that cinematic effect that you are getting on the only on the higher end model. Apart from that, I think, is there anything else?
Nothing else.
And it is also just if you are into that status game.
Exactly.
That you
the
want
three cameras.
Yeah. If you want to flash the third camera. Otherwise, I don't think there is any other utility that you shell out another 50,000 for getting that Pro version.
I mean, last year it made some sense with the dynamic island, but this year it absolutely makes no sense.
Yeah.
The Plus will be the best phone for most people, and for people like me who like compact phone, 15, but it's not that compact. The iPhone, was it 11 that had a mini version? 13 had a mini version.
Yeah.
So when it came
12 mini, I think.
12 or 13, not sure, but when it came out, I remember everyone excited about it, all reviews saying it's the best thing ever, it will do the most in sales, but they had to drop it next year because no one got it. And then if you just research, people don't like small phones, even though they're more practical. People have small ends, but they still want bigger phones, even though they're having difficulty holding it. So that's why maybe that's the reason people will prefer Plus over the normal 15. but I would recommend the 15 because you get most whatever you need. You have the 15 fulfills.
So it's the S24 is the winner for both of us in the final category.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are done with all our tiers. Now just few more questions before going forward. What are the things, because there is this debate that smartphones have peaked. There cannot be a better smartphone from here. You see iPhone, you see any other smartphone. They've got the best hardware, right? Best features right now. What is the thing that you're expecting smartphones to do?
For a few years, very few, like 1 or 2 years, so you will expect a third telephoto lens to be the norm. Apart from that, maybe thinner, even bezels, but they are not major improvements, because if you're seeing I remember when I used to watch tech YouTube, every year we would have some feature you will be surprised by. If you just 15 the type C EU forcing, if you ignore that, the increment have been very stagnant and slow. For a normal person, even with Samsung, they can't tell the difference between 22, 23, 24. So if a person say smartphones have peaked, I will agree in that hardware sense. To an extent, yes. But there's a lot they can do with the software aspect, because from outside the phones might look the same, but when you turn them on, now the higher refresh rate has been the trend, but maybe people might go into tweaking their UIs to be more user friendly, because nothing has come with a completely different UI. In that sense, AI being a very important feature, people will tweak their hardwares to suit the AI. That's why 12 GB RAM. I think OnePlus even offers 16 GB RAM. I don't know why, but they do. And it will just be software oriented. AI, was it a Rabbit that came up with a device that's just AI? There's this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They just want that device. Yeah.
So if a device can just be AI, then smartphones will also try to incorporate AI so that people don't go and buy just a device for AI. So that's like the recent
What I'm thinking is, for a normal user, smartphone are the best. But how you can make a person more lazier than this? Probably more conversational kind of smartphone, because already you are listening to me, I know, right? But doing more tasks. Right now it can set my phone can now set you alarms, it can call anyone, it can send a message to anyone, open the apps for anyone. But I'm thinking what more it can do. There are still a lot more, like typing.
Exactly.
Typing obviously it can do now. So I want more conversational, where I'm talking to a smartphone. It should be almost like I'm talking to a secretary. Although right now what they have is not that great.
I think that's the Rabbit as I brought up. So I don't know how, because people have not seen the product in hand, but the promo just shows, hey, whatever, book a Uber. That's all. The command ends. The AI, normally with Google, if you say book a Uber, they will have to set the location, then decide which is the cheapest Uber, then set the location of where you're going to get down, then pay, how are you going to do it. Like there are 5, 6, 7, 8 steps, like an assistant as you said. But that Rabbit, in his promo at least, just the command with just book a Uber to home, not even specified where is home, just said just a book a Uber to home, was able to do that. So if that's the case, then even phones might go in that realm.
Yeah, exactly. That is what I want.
Task.
More conversational, more human-like, and like order a food from me for this.
Yes.
I don't want to see the go through the entire process. Like just order for me. Then send an email. I think already they send the email. They will draft it and keep it for you ready, and you just have to hit the send button.
But then so it will be more like a subscription based thing. Do you think so? It will be for everyone to use?
I think Pixel and all can give it for free, right? Because what they are saying they have done this AI. The next, it is still not advanced AI as per what I am seeing it. It is still not that where I want it to be more advanced.
But with ChatGPT, they keep the pro versions paid, because I'm pretty sure if something is replacing your personal assistant,
no, let them pay, let them charge, because Google also has that screen when someone calls you. It has called something called as a screen assistant, call assistant. So I don't have to pick up a phone. Someone else, AI picks up the phone, they will basically ask, like you call me and they will ask what is the purpose of this call. Then the message will pop up on the screen. Instead of me receiving it, the message will just say that this is what your enquiry is. And those kind of things are there, but I think still it should go next. More things is I want a far better dictionary on the phones, a better predictive text system. Already there is there, it is there. Google also has like, I've only criticized Google, but there are better things on Google Pixel 8 Pro. That is, camera is good. The keyboard is so good. It knows what is the next word I want to type. Even on WhatsApp, it has got its own AI system. Let's say you are texting me happy birthday or how are you, it will automatically keep a reply ready for you. You don't have to type anything. Like maximum of the time, I don't have to type anything. Even in the notification, someone is asking me something, are you busy, are you free for a call? There are 2 options already available. Yes, you can call me now. So I don't have to do a lot of things. It makes a lot of things simpler for you, right? So that credit is due to the Google. So yes, those are the thing. Your language becomes far more advanced for you to type. Then what else I want? I think battery, maybe 2 days battery, because in the last 3-4 years, batteries have remained the same. 6 hours.
They have not, in a sense that the phones are doing so much more.
Yeah.
So if what phones are doing is requiring a lot more battery. So in that sense, the battery capacity have increased. But if you're saying the time period, like active screen on time, that has stayed the same, but at the same time, the battery charging has become so much faster. If I'm not mistaken, the OnePlus flagship phone charges in 50% in 8 minutes and 100% in 25 minutes. That's absurd. So even if you're at work, you could just charge it. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. So it's not like you're going to be deserted in the island that you would need constant battery. No, it will of course be a good feature, but it is not that big of a concern for most people.
Yeah, and also you got power banks and all these things, right? But I'm just thinking, I'm out for a trip and I'm roaming from day to evening, and then I want my smartphone to do most of the videography. So in that kind of a scenario, it should last, right? So maybe the battery is another thing I want them to improve. Apart from that, I don't think there is a lot of things that comes to my mind that they can do well.
When I think of batteries, I think the main fear they have is something like the Note 7 might happen, because the main reason the debacle of the Note 7 exploding happened is because they packed a very big battery at the time in a phone, because apparently batteries swell, and when you have a phone trying to make it as thin as possible, there's no room left for the battery to swell. So that's the main reason right now the smartphone companies are not going towards expanding the capacity of the battery. They're just looking at making it faster, because that's at a lower risk than just the battery is like exploding. That might be the reason why the smartphone companies are not targeting expanding the batteries yet.
Okay. Now, recently I saw that on Amazon and Flipkart, they have changed their purchasing policy. Like if you are buying a smartphone on both this platform, the return policy is changed now. You cannot return to the Flipkart or the Amazon. You have to directly return to the smartphone seller, not smartphone, smartphone company, right? And that becomes a lot of problem because I've seen people complaining on X, the Twitter, and all that. Their phones are not good, and they have to return, and it's such a huge long process because contacting the company and getting it. Earlier it was so simple. So do you think a lot of people now will buy on the offline retail stores?
Totally, because first people were buying offline, then online came, they were a little reluctant, but then the trust was built. But then most people were buying the lower end phones, lower as in like below 30-20 category. So now as the consumers are tending towards buying premium phones, there's a trend you're seeing. Everyone you know is upgrading from whatever they usually used to have and going for a higher tier. So if people are doing that, if I'm going to spend 80,000 on a phone, if it's not a person like you who is tech savvy, who has experience, for most people, they will want to experience the phone in hand because they don't know what it will be like. So if the general trend of people buying more premium phone also means that people will be more likely to go to the offline stores and buy, and these policies are not helping. But overall, for like most phones, it will still the online will hold some market, but offline is definitely going to boom in the coming years.
Okay. Last question, and we wanted to discuss it. We decided to discuss this question where we discuss some of the tech figures that exist today. And what name comes to your mind?
Steve Jobs, everyone said.
Okay, Steve Jobs, yeah. Everyone remembers that first iPhone presentation. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it, but I've seen the movie. I've seen the movie Steve Jobs, and I've experienced it, not firsthand, of course, but I know what impact it left on people.
So someone wants to get better at presentation. That one video of Steve Jobs launching the first iPhone is everything. You can get your presentation, any presentation better with that. I think his ways of presentation, I don't think there is anyone better than him in terms of doing that. He's had a major influence that when he launched iPhone, and if you read his autobiography, if you read his biography by Walter Isaacson,
Yes.
you will come to know what was the process of launching the first iPhones was like. Many years it took, but when it launched the phone, it almost created an industry of its own. And everything that came after that is an inspiration to what the first iPhone was. It changed drastically. It was like the first of its own kind. So Steve Jobs had a greater influence. He still, I think, has influence on how Apple thinks, on how a lot of other companies think. And the next person that comes to my mind, who almost is like a Steve Jobs kind of a figure, is Kalpe. That is the ex OnePlus CEO, and today he's a Nothing CEO and founder. When I see him on doing various videos, his communication with people, and his own design philosophy, his own philosophy of making this Nothing OS stand out from the other, almost like he wants to mimic what Steve Jobs was at one point of time. What do you think?
I agree. I think Steve Jobs was one of those people who saw the future, or maybe just had a very good sense of knowing what was happening in the market, because whatever principle he set out, Apple is still abiding by it. Even Tim Cook's, he had interpreted the philosophy of Steve Jobs in the character of Apple so much that every launch you see something, like even with AirPods, or like every launch you doubt Apple, but if you just look, they're still sticking by the philosophy of Steve Jobs, and they are still succeeding. In that way, Kalpe, with his own innovative style, is very, he reminds you of Steve Jobs, but in his own way is very unique. Because if you look at Steve Jobs, I won't say he was passionate about Apple, but the way Nothing CEO says Nothing is full of passion and love. Because I was watching, as I said, the OnePlus video of him talking about it, and literally he was so passionate. He started talking about the people who helped build, like Nothing has 14 co-founder, and each time he's talking about it, he gives respect to those people. So Kalpe has not only the ideology of Steve Jobs, but also has that compassion and the things you need as a CEO to keep the company together, which
And
Steve Jobs
community.
led. Community, that's the main
Community
point.
engagement was OnePlus had a good engagement
Exactly,
from
sir.
the start.
From the start.
Yeah.
The way Nothing got investors from their own fans, the way it built trust. So I believe that Kalpe has learned from Steve Jobs and also learned from just environment in general. As I said, he studied in Sweden, China, America. He has this touch over people which Steve Jobs might have not had because of his, how do we say, hostile nature. That's all.
Okay. And any other personality that comes to your
Tim Cook's by
Tim
extent.
Cook, I'll tell you about Tim Cook. When he began at Apple, he was more of a logistical guy.
Yes.
He was the one who was sent in China by Steve Jobs to look after the production. And he delivered. He actually worked earlier with Compaq. And whatever task was given to him, he ensured that task was done. But I don't think he is a creative guy.
Sir, whatever Steve Jobs did lasted till the launch of maybe the first iPad. After that, the iPods, the AR glasses, everything else, even the innovation in Apple's recent years, it's all Tim Cook's. The design team has remained the same, but people don't give him enough credit for what he has done. Because imagine being in a position where everyone was criticizing. I remember when I was a kid, I was watching YouTube and I saw iPods and I was like, this is stupid. They look like alien devices. No one ever is going to wear them. And then your wireless earbuds became the norm. So in that sense, he is a visionary too. But a lot of time, because
but I think a lot of this design were also done by that Jonathan Ive.
Yes, true.
Who was the earlier design chief of Apple.
Yes, but when you're at he makes the last decision, he's the final decision maker. To have that much trust, he believed in the Steve Jobs philosophy to an extent of innovation. To have so much trust in his people to do that, it requires a lot of courage, and people don't give him enough credit for what he has done. Not just the iPods, but even when iPhone 10 was released, the hate it got. I remember again, because I was in school and I used to just watch this videos. Everyone was like, it's going to be a failure. Who's going to buy it? It skipped a line. Everyone was like, this is chaotic. No one believed, but it proved wrong. Every single time they make a decision, more often than not, when I say they, that guy, he has such a good touch with logistics.
Isn't he going very safe? Not what Steve Jobs would do. He's going very safe with his decision. Every update is like not an incremental update, just doing one thing right better. Like the new iPhone, apart from the Type C, what else is a major upgrade?
But then they are doing AR, for example. How can you, when iPhone increased,
and they also stopped their plans of launching the car.
Yes.
I don't think Steve Jobs would have done it.
But in that way.
But they've got the AR also.
AR. So the thing is that you can't, when Apple launched his lot, there was a lot that could have been improved. With like 10, 20, not 20, 15 generation of iPhones, it becomes difficult to improve something. So by nature of the market, by the nature of the technology, by nature of like semiconductors, whatever other nitty-gritties that you need to upgrade, it is difficult to do such innovation. So they found out that they can't do much with iPhone. So they branched out in other sectors. So in that sense, I feel like he's not playing just safe. He has taken a lot of risk, because from the very beginning, he had a very big shoes to fill. From the day one, I remember the hate he got, and with every launch, the hate he got. Like if Steve Jobs were there, he wouldn't have done this. If Steve was you keep on comparing him with someone so great. So if you think about that, he has been in Apple for 25 years. And he deserves more recognition than what he gets right now. That's all I would say.
Maybe we should not compare him and just see him for what he is.
True, but even with comparison, it's like we don't know what Steve Jobs would have done. We can only predict. We can only predict.
We can predict, but I think it would have been something else only.
Something else.
He would have pushed that to do something else. So I think if Elon Musk enters into smartphone, it will be something else.
So I have a genuine question. What has Elon Musk done that makes you think this way?
So Elon Musk, what he has done is, whatever he sets his eye into, he ensures that he is not a natural, he's not studied rocket engineering. He's learned it from books. He did not know about automobile engineering. He learned it from various places. So whatever, let's say and once there was like few months back, they had Elon Musk had a spat with Apple regarding the commission that Twitter has to pay for buying the subscription to Apple, because they host the apps on App Store and Google Store. They had a big fight, and Elon Musk almost said that I will launch the smartphone. That is when Tim Cook actually called him to meet in Apple headquarters and said that, they basically had a negotiation and they tried to compromise. I think if Elon Musk launches, it will be something different. And why I'm saying it, you see Tesla, it could have been just an electric car, but his vision was not just electric car. And recently I've read the book on Elon Musk. His vision was more of a autopilot. That self-driven car was his own vision. It's still not fully utilized. Maybe end of the year he is launching something big that may realize that. Self-driving cars, taxis, then sending mission to space.
Yes.
He's the person who said that although I am born on Earth, I will die on Mars. And he said he will take entire his family. So that kind of vision, that person thinks completely different. Steve Jobs was absolutely creative. Elon Musk is far more aggressive and can do this in multiple areas. Steve Jobs was maximum smartphone, and then with the Disney and Pixar animation he could do. But Elon Musk is spread out in multiple industries. Now he's got Twitter also, communication, media, then automobile, rockets, Neuralink, Solar City, so many things. OpenAI, Elon Musk himself was the founder of OpenAI. He was the one who paid maximum money to OpenAI. So I think if he enters, we never know. Also, Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, I was going to say that, sir.
He is very young, has got a lot of resources to enter into this industry, if at all at some point, because he also is not very happy with Apple at this point of time.
That's why he started the AR, because with Apple, when they were software focused, the whole control is with the hardware, because you can't launch something in Abyss. So because of that, the main reason they launched AR is that if AR is the future, they wanted to build hardware. So that's why they started out by building, for the first time in like forever history of Facebook or Meta now, they build that AR, what are they called? The AR
Oculus.
lenses. But they have the specific name, the Facebook ones, the Meta ones.
They've come up with that Ray-Ban also, Ray-Ban.
Yes, those two.
VR devices.
VR
right?
devices.
Yeah.
But then they are branching into hardware, so that might be something exciting or threatening to Apple. And
but Apple has got far superior device.
That is
what it is called?
Vision Pro.
Vision Pro. Yeah.
That is very debatable because it is priced
4x.
Yeah, 4x the amount of the Mark Zuckerberg one, the Meta one, and there's this video. Okay, so everyone criticized Mark Zuckerberg for not being a social person. So he came out with a video where he is actually trying on the Vision Pros and comparing it with his AR device.
He's criticized it a lot.
Exactly, I never saw that. And he's actually gaining some personality. I feel like I have this tendency to just like the underdogs. So that's why Tim Cooks and like Mark Zuckerberg, I feel like
he's not the underdog. Mark Zuckerberg is not.
When the stock prices of Meta went crazy down very recently.
Now it's the highest.
Now it's the highest. So as I said, sir, people did not trust him because of his persona. When people are reserved, people don't tend to know what's going on really. Same happened with Tim Cooks and now with Mark Zuckerberg. So him experimenting and his vision, I actually believe in what they are doing, and I think he should be given more credit because it's controversial, but I think Elon Musk is a little overhyped. When you just, he's passionate, he has a vision, but when you actually see what has actually actualized, it's not much. He wanted to build a speed tube between Intel connecting many cities, a metro underneath.
That is also Hyperloop.
Hyperloop.
That is also happening.
But it's been so many years, not yet actualized with self-driving car. If you just talk to people, people don't agree that it. I'm critical of him.
He sets too ambitious targets.
Too ambitious, that's all.
That he may not meet it, but at some point of time, he does meet it. He may not meet the target that he sets, but he does meet it.
And also with Elon Musk and X, Twitter. So, what do you think about the name change, sir?
I think name change, I don't know much about it, but he's taken a big responsibility into
40 billion.
Putting that money may not be, but he says he's done it for the free speech. I don't think any other person would have been able to do what he is able to do, because in a private ownership and public ownership, he can completely change the company how he wants. But I think that's a different subject.
Yes.
So you have any last words?
With this, regards to this, I would just say that the reason he wanted to change it to X is because he wanted to.
No, I'm saying, you have any last comments on the smartphone for the students?
Smartphone for students. I think we have spoken enough.
Yeah.
But just as I was talking in the morning, there are some ways of utilizing your smartphones better, because I recently found out about that. Is the battery. Since we spoke about the capacity of phones and fast charging, I think one should be aware that if a phone is allowing you to charge it at 100 watt speed, it will actually be better if you charge it at a lower speed, because the battery will heat up less and it will increase the durability of the phone. And also, if you see the trend with Pixel or even Samsung or Apple phones, the latest ones, they give you a cap, like they'll switch off charging after a certain percentage. It shows something. There's some merit to the whole claim that you should not charge your battery till 100%, because the heat might actually damage your battery. So that's something. If you're investing in a good phone, maybe try to not maybe just extend the battery life by utilizing it in the best, most optimal way possible. That's all. So
Okay, Achal, thank you so much. Let's see what people take out from this conversation.
yes.
And until we meet next time, thank you so much again. Yes.
Thank you.